Hello everyone, good evening. Welcome to BAJIRAO IAS Academy. So today is 17th of April 2024 and we have come up with few important news articles for today's discussion. So before discussing all those important news articles, let's try to solve the practice question. So this is the practice question for tomorrow. Okay. So the Central Pollution Control Board was constituted under which of the following acts? So please understand this is a very important question for your examination perspective. So the first option is a Wildlife Protection Act 1972, the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974, the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981, the Environment Protection Act 1986. So which of the legislations have provided for the establishment of Central Pollution Control Board? So this is a very important. So please try to answer this question in the comment section, and correct answer I'll be giving you in tomorrow's lecture. So the first article for today's discussion is about Yamuna floodplain. So we all knew that Yamuna river, and it is a tributary of river Ganga which passes through Delhi, the Union Territory of Delhi. So the Yamuna river floodplain is encroached upon and the floodplain are increasingly concretized. So because of that reason, it has several negative consequences. For example, every day during rainy season, so every year during rainy season, what was happening was flooding was most challenging and most pressing issue. So because of that reason, the National Green Tribunal regularly asked the Delhi Development Authority, which is under the central government, to demarcate the floodplain zone of the Yamuna. So however, the Delhi Development Authority and the committees which are constituted by the National Green Tribunal are failed to demarcate the floodplain, because if we can demarcate the floodplain of Yamuna river, then we could take appropriate measures on the floodplain to prevent encroachment, and we can also protect the Yamuna floodplains, and we can reduce the flooding, and we can also recharge the groundwater tables if we can be able to prevent the encroachment upon these floodplains. Now understand the context. So before understanding this context, so please remember that this is very important for your prelims examination as well as the mains examination also. In mains examination, you may get a question on the consequences of illegal encroachment on floodplains of river Yamuna. So this is relevant or important not just with respect to river Yamuna, but also with respect to other important rivers and their floodplains is being encroached upon. So one recent example of increased encroachment upon floodplains is Brahmaputra river in Assam. So the Brahmaputra river floodplains are also increasingly encroached upon. So that has been changing the nature of rivers. Now understand the context. The process of physical demarcation of the Yamuna floodplains. So all the floodplains, imagine that this is how the river Yamuna was flowing, and on the banks of river Yamuna you can see the floodplains, both sides of the river Yamuna. So the physical demarcation of these floodplains actually a basic step, so that will help in identifying and protecting the sensitive ecosystem from illegal encroachment. So when we are able to identify these floodplains on the both sides of river Yamuna, we will be able to protect this sensitive region and the ecosystem of this sensitive region from illegal encroachment. However, here the problem is that the physical demarcation of the floodplains of river Yamuna are still incomplete process. They are not yet completed by the committees which are being tasked with the completion of demarcation of floodplain, and also the along with the committees, the Delhi Development Authority is also constituted with the task of demarcating the physical demarcation of the floodplains. However, still it is an incomplete process. So earlier, the National Green Tribunal, that was a legislative body created through a legislation of Parliamentary Act in the year 2010. So it was earlier asked the authorities to identify the encroachment, the illegal encroachment within the floodplain. Now if you look at the rivers, various rivers in India, the problem is illegal encroachment on the floodplains of those rivers. So therefore, NGT had asked the authorities to identify the illegal encroachments on the floodplains of river Yamuna. But the problem is that this process of physical demarcation of floodplains is not yet done. It is not yet completed by the authorities which are being tasked with the demarcation. And so it was not initiated even after a devastating floods in July 2023. So in fact, in July 2023, Delhi had seen a devastating flood because of unprecedented rise in the water levels of river Yamuna. So generally what happens was when illegal encroachments are constructed on both sides of the river Yamuna. So for example, imagine this is the broad course of river Yamuna. Okay. So this is the broader course of river Yamuna, and this is how the river has been passing through. Okay, so this is the course of the river. Now what was happening in a city like Delhi? So these floodplains or the banks are increasingly encroached upon. So they are being increasingly encroached upon by the various settlements. Now when you encroach the banks or the floodplains of the river Yamuna, what has been happening? The course of the river Yamuna is further shortening. Okay, so the width of river Yamuna is further shortening, right? So in this case, the carrying capacity of the river would significantly decline. The carrying capacity of the river would significantly decline. Okay. So declining carrying capacity would lead to the increasing water levels, and increasing water levels would submerge the nearby areas. So that increases the annual flooding of river Yamuna because of the increased illegal encroachment on the floodplains of river Yamuna. So we all knew the consequences of flooding. So flooding had consequences, the property losses, the loss of livelihoods of the people, and loss of lives of the people. So all these are consequences of increased flooding, and at the same time the government also need to spend a significant amount of resources to prevent the flooding in those encroached areas. Now apart from that, if you can see regular flooding of river Yamuna to the nearby areas, then Delhi as a city would face the consequences of annual flooding regularly. So because of that reason, encroachment upon the floodplains of river Yamuna is a very serious consequence here. Not just river Yamuna, but encroachment upon the floodplains of any other river is a serious consequence. So in fact, the illegal permanent construction. So there are a lot of constructions across the floodplains of river Yamuna. So it is also said that after NGT had ordered to demarcate the floodplains, physical demarcation of all the floodplains, the illegal encroachments have significantly increased. So significantly increased in the sense that there are examples of illegal or permanent encroachments upon the floodplains. For example, the Commonwealth Games Village was an example. The Yamuna Bank metro station was also an example of the permanent encroachment upon the floodplains. So these are some of the examples of illegal encroachment, not just illegal encroachment but encroachment upon the floodplains. So after that, it is also believed that Delhi Secretariat is also built on the floodplains of river Yamuna. So all these encroachments have been making the course of river Yamuna further shorter, and it has been reducing its carrying capacity. Reducing carrying capacity increases the chances of floods on river Yamuna. The problem is that despite NGT ordering to demarcate the floodplains of river Yamuna, so this task is not yet completed. Even the court has also intervened, and court has also asked to demarcate the floodplains of river Yamuna, but this still not done. So however, experts have been claiming that this is because of two major reasons, and one major reason was dishonest intention of bureaucrats, and secondly, there was a strong land mafia in the floodplains of river Yamuna. So the land mafia was grabbing the floodplains of river Yamuna. So these two are major reasons why this region is still demarcated as a floodplain. Now, if you can demarcate any region as a floodplain, what happens? Then you can take measures to prevent any illegal encroachment into the floodplain. So because of this reason, the strong land mafia and dishonest bureaucrats have been preventing the physical demarcation of this floodplain of river Yamuna, and that has been posing a lot of challenges. So in recent years, the encroachment upon these floodplains has been significantly increasing. So that is a major challenge. Increasing encroachment upon the floodplains is a major challenge. So that it is also said that the encroachment has been significantly increased in the 1990s. So with several illegal colonies were mushrooming on the site of river Yamuna. So if I can provide you examples, I've already told you the examples of these encroachments, the permanent encroachments upon the floodplain include the Commonwealth Games Village, Yamuna Bank Metro Station, Delhi Secretariat were also constructed on these floodplains. Now understand, when these constructions are built on the floodplains, those floodplains will be concretized. Those floodplains will be concretized. So of course it reduces the carrying capacity of rivers. There's no doubt about that. Now apart from reducing the carrying capacity of rivers, so these concretized structures would also prevent the seepage or the infiltration of the groundwater from the floodplains. So there will be no groundwater recharge from the floodplains. So that also creates the water crisis like what Bengaluru has been experiencing now. In a similar way, Delhi may also experience the water crisis because of the lowering groundwater table levels. So apart from this, there is also another chance of water crisis because of increased contamination of the river Yamuna through industrial waste is being indiscriminately released into the river Yamuna, and domestic waste is also released. Domestic liquid waste is also released without having a sewage treatment plants. So all these factors may create a water crisis in imminent future in Delhi also, similar to Bengaluru. So therefore floodplain demarcation, the physical demarcation of floodplain is very, very important in this context. So in 2015 judgment, the National Green Tribunal has also formed another committee to demarcate the physical demarcation of the floodplains of river Yamuna. So earlier also the National Green Tribunal has constituted one committee, but the committee has not able to demarcate the floodplains of river Yamuna successfully. But in 2015 NGT had formed another committee to demarcate the floodplains around river Yamuna in Delhi. So NGT had said that Meli se Nirmal Yamuna, so that is a dirty to clean, from dirty to clean Yamuna. For this particular purpose, NGT had formed a committee. So with the intent to restore river's floodplains to its natural state by 31st March 2017. So but the problem is that the new committee was given a time period of 3 months to demarcate all the floodplains of river Yamuna, but the committee was not able to meet this deadline, and committee had asked 3 months more time from the NGT to finish its task. And again the problem is that non-supporting or dishonest the bureaucrats, and at the same time the strong land mafia, which has been further extending, which is the major reason for further extension of this term to demarcate the physical floodplains of river Yamuna. Now if you can look at river Yamuna, so as I have already told you that river Yamuna flows parallel to river Ganga. Okay, so it meet river Ganga at Prayagraj. So however, river Yamuna flows through Delhi. River Yamuna flows through Delhi. Okay, so it enters Delhi at Palla in the north and flows through Wajirabad and Okla, and it finally leaves Delhi at Jaitapur in the south. Okay, so this is how river Yamuna flows through Delhi, and the region which is on the banks of river Yamuna is categorized as the floodplain zone of river Yamuna. So however, the officials have been saying that, or they claiming that the demarcation has been done from Wajirabad to Okla, but it has not been completed from Okla to Jaitapur. So the major reason for not completing the demarcation of the floodplain was the actual responsibility for demarcation of the floodplain was given to the Delhi Development Authority, which is under the central government. Delhi Development Authority is under the central government. So however, for the remaining floodplain to be demarcated, the Delhi Development Authority need to coordinate with the Delhi government. For this particular purpose, the remaining area is not yet demarcated. This is what the officials have been saying. So however, increased and continued encroachment upon the floodplains would cause severe floods in Delhi, and that is being one example of such floods were July 2023 floods in Delhi. So in fact, the National Green Tribunal took a suo motu cognizance of the newspaper report and formed another committee headed by Chief Secretary in October last year, 2023. So in fact, the National Green Tribunal directions to the new committee to physically demarcate the floodplains and also suggest measures to remove the existing encroachments from the floodplains. Because please understand, once you are able to demarcate this region, you should also be able to remove the encroachments to protect the floodplains of river Yamuna. And also understand, the protection of all these floodplains is very important to maintain the ecosystem of river Yamuna, and also preventing the incidents of floods, annual floods that have been taking place in every rainy season in Delhi, and at the same time recharging the groundwater tables of Delhi. Protection of groundwater tables of Delhi, protection of floodplains of river Yamuna are very, very important. So however, here the key concern is that despite orders from the court and National Green Tribunal, the demarcation of the floodplains is not yet done. So this is not just limited to Yamuna, but there are a lot of rivers and their floodplains are being increasingly encroached upon by this land grabbing mafia. So okay, so that's all in this about this floodplains of river Yamuna. Next we'll discuss about the green bonds. Okay, so what exactly is this green bonds? Now understand the context. The context is that Government of India is likely to issue 20,000 crore to 25,000 crore of green bonds, for which it has allowed the foreign institutional investors to invest in it. Now I will tell you who are these foreign institutional investors. And there is a difference between foreign institutional investors and foreign direct investment. So these foreign institutional investors, they don't invest in the physical infrastructure. They don't physically invest the money in any other country. Now I'll explain you this with an example. Now imagine a company A which is located in a country called US. So company A is located in US. Now company A is registered and located in US, and it is wanted to invest in Indian securities market, Indian share market. That is considered as the foreign institutional investment. But on the other hand, there's a company B and it is located in US and it is tasked with the manufacturing of electric vehicles. Okay, so it manufactures electric vehicles and it wanted to establish one of its unit in India to manufacture electric vehicles. So this type of investment is considered as the foreign direct investment. And on the other hand, the first type of investment is considered as foreign institutional investor. So now the other thing which is making the foreign institutional investment different from foreign direct investment is that the foreign institutional investor can take away his investments at any time he wants. But on the other hand, it is not the case with the foreign direct investment, because he established a unit here in India and he provide employment opportunities for the people here. So therefore, the foreign direct investment is less liquid. So he cannot withdraw his investment at any time he wants. But on the other hand, it is not the case with the foreign institutional investors. So these investors can invest in government securities, they can issue in government securities, they can be part of the Indian share market, Indian stock market, everything. So they can withdraw their investments at any time. So in recent years, the investment, especially the foreign institutional investment flows into India are significantly increasing because of the higher potential of Indian economy, that they have a strong expectations of better performance of the Indian economy, thereby getting a better returns on their investment. Because of that reason, the foreign institutional investors are preferring to invest in India. So recently the government have come up with a concept called green bonds. So under this concept of green bonds, what the government will do, so the government will issue a bonds, and the government will issue a bonds worth of 20,000 to 25,000 crore worth of bonds. Okay, so these bonds would be probably purchased by these foreign institutional investors. Now I will tell you what exactly these green bonds are. So green bonds are actually a type of, for example, imagine that a government issued a green bond worth of 100 rupees face value, and there is a foreign institutional investor A. Now this person has purchased this bond from the government by paying 100 rupees, and in return the government provides the green bond to the person A. Now this 100 rupees, the proceeds of selling these green bonds, the government will invest in the improvement of environment. So, or environmentally sustainable projects, the government will invest the proceeds of green bonds. So environmental sustainability project include the solar energy projects, wind energy project, and sewage treatment plants, and green hydrogen production. So these are environmentally sustainable methods or environmentally sustainable projects. So the proceeds which are being derived from the green bonds will be used in these projects, and later the government will repay the interest rate and money to the bond holder at a longer period of time. So generally it takes a longer period of time to repay the green bond returns and the money to the investor. Okay, so green bonds are actually a fixed income investment and used to fund projects with a positive environmental impact. So they have a positive environmental impact. So I've already told you that what kind of a projects which are part of the green bonds. So after that, like traditional bonds, green bonds offer investor stated return and a promise to use these proceeds to finance or refinance sustainable projects either in part or whole. Okay, so these projects essentially used for funding, used for funding the sustainable projects. So these green bond, whenever a government plan to issue such green bonds, so they follow the principles of green bond principles that are being stated by International Capital Market Association. So however, these green bonds are also associated or comes with several other issues. So very often transparency is the problem with respect to these green bonds, and some green bonds have the lower liquidity in the sense that these green bonds you cannot, for example, if I have purchased a green bond from the government, I cannot easily convert this green bond into gold or money immediately. So it has a lower liquidity because there are no buyers to purchase these green bonds. So government selling the green bonds to me. Okay, so I wanted to invest my money in these environmentally sustainable projects. But what if suddenly I need a money and these green bonds are less liquid because they cannot be easily converted or converted into the gold or money. Okay, so compared to the traditional bonds. So these are some challenges, and apart from that, the greenwashing is also another major challenge because in the name of funding the environmentally sustainable projects, the governments may use the funds for any other purpose other than the environmental sustainability. So that is greenwashing. Okay, now let's discuss another very important article, that is about import based inflation. Now, how imports drive inflation of any country? So that is what we have to understand here. Now, first understand the context. So context was Asian Development Bank, ADB. So recently warned that India could face imported inflation as rupee could depreciate amid rise in interest rates in the West. Okay, so this is important for your prelims as well as mains examinations, okay, especially economy part and external trade and even the cost push and demand pull inflations. So these are different categories of inflation, so therefore they are very important for your examination point of view. So the Asian Development Bank, this is a multilateral bank. So that multilateral bank has recently warned India that there may be imported inflation because of increasing interest rates. Now, when interest rates are generally increased, interest rate of any country, for example, imagine that a country A. So country A facing highest inflation. So due to highest inflation, what country A will do? The country A wanted to reduce money circulation, excess money circulation in the economy, because excess money may contribute to increasing inflation in the economy. So increasing inflation means severe increase in the prices of goods and services. So that could slow down the economic growth, and that may also result in recession in the country by slowing down the demand in the economy. So therefore they wanted to reduce the money circulation in the economy, and in order to reduce the money circulation, the central bank of country A adopt one approach, that is increasing the interest rates. So if any person wanted to take a loan from a bank, so he must pay higher interest rates to get that loan, increasing interest rate. So increasing interest rate will certainly reduce the money circulation in the economy. So therefore, when there are higher interest rates, what happens? There is a less money in the economy. There is a less money in the economy, and there will be more demand for the money in the economy. Now, immediately the foreign institutional investors may withdraw their investments out of Indian stock market, and then they will meet this demand. Because of higher interest rate, they will withdraw their investments from Indian stock market and invest in their countries, because of they're getting higher returns in their economies. So that certainly depreciates India's currency, because if you can see, when there is a flight of foreign currency or forex reserves, then certainly we will have a less forex. We will have less forex with us. So less forex means if we wanted to import anything from any other country, so we need forex reserves. Since we have less forex, there will be higher demand for the forex or foreign currency reserves. We need to pay more rupees to purchase these foreign currency reserves. So that certainly depreciates India's value, currency value. Okay, so that is the problem, and that is how depreciation of rupee will also impact the total economy, or it also increases the inflation in our country. So how it increases inflation, I'll be explaining you later. Okay, now here imported inflation refers to, I'll explain you clearly what exactly is the imported inflation. So imported inflation means, suppose imagine that for crude oil purchase, for the purchase of crude oil, you are paying 100. So this is just an imaginary example. You are paying 100 rupees to import 1 barrel of crude oil. 1 barrel of crude oil. Okay, so $1 is equivalent to, 100 rupees is equivalent to $1. $100 is equivalent to $1, and you are paying $1 to purchase 1 barrel of crude oil, because crude oil is very important, and we are importing 85% of our crude oil from other countries. Now in this context, so please understand, if there are less forex reserves with us, and there is more demand for forex, what happens? Our currency value with respect to dollar significantly declines. So now we must pay 110 rupees to purchase $1 in the international market. So now we are paying more rupees to purchase the barrel of crude oil. So earlier we just used to purchase a barrel of crude oil for 100 rupees. Now we are paying 110 rupees to purchase the same barrel of crude oil. So therefore it significantly increases the input cost, because the crude oil prices increases, and crude oil prices increases, increasing crude oil prices will also increase the input costs. They also increase the input costs of industries, and that would further drive the inflation of our economy. Okay, so this is the major thing that is involved behind increasing crude oil prices. So imported inflation refers to rise in the prices of goods and services in a country, so that is caused by an increase in the price of or cost of imports into the country. And similarly, it is actually believed that rise in import cost or input cost. For example, when you are manufacturing something, when you are manufacturing a mobile phone, you require several raw materials. So raw materials are here considered as inputs. Okay, so when a company or an industry has been paying higher price for these inputs or these raw materials, the end product prices will also significantly increases. Okay, so when the end product prices have been increasing, so that has resulted in increasing inflation in the economy, and this inflation is known as cost push inflation, not demand pull inflation. So this inflation is known as cost push inflation. Okay, so because it pushes producers to raise the prices and they charge from their local customers and boosting inflation or significantly increasing the inflation. Now understand, when currency of any country depreciates, for example, the currency value of rupee depreciates compared to the US dollar, so people in India have to pay more rupees to import anything from any other country, because now the value of rupee has significantly declined, and if we wanted to import any essential item from any other country, we must pay in dollars, not in rupees. So since our rupee value has significantly declined, we need to spend more rupees to import the same amount of goods. Okay, so that is how it increases inflation in the economy, because now we are spending more money to import essential goods. So therefore the depreciation of rupee will impact inflation, or it increases inflation in the economy. So that is what it is said. So therefore the rise in interest rates in the West, especially Europe and US, leads to the currencies of developing countries to depreciate. Okay, so that will depreciate the currencies of these developing countries. Okay, so which can lead to the higher import costs of these countries. Now how it increases the import costs, I have already explained you. Okay, so when interest rates are higher in those countries, interest rates are higher in developed countries, there will be flight in the capital from all the developing countries to the developed countries. So flight in capital of, they withdraw the capital out of Indian markets, the foreign institutional investors. Now we left with less forex reserves. Less forex reserves means that we require more forex. Okay, so to import any essential items, when we have a less forex reserves, so that significantly increases the value of Indian rupee, and depreciation in the value of Indian rupee will lead to the paying higher amount of rupees, or higher, paying more rupee or more currency to purchase the essential items, purchase essential goods that we have been purchasing earlier. So that is the problem. So therefore the rise in import costs, even without depreciation in the value of country's currency, is also believed to lead to import inflation. Now when you are importing something, For example, if I can tell you one example, that was the Middle East conflict. So due to Middle East conflict, there is a chance that the oil prices significantly increase. Oil prices would significantly increase because Middle East, we can see a volatile situation, an unstable situation, and regularly the militant groups such as Hezbollah and Houthi rebels have been attacking ships which are carrying the oil. So therefore, that insecurity significantly increases the oil prices. So increase in the oil prices, that means that we have been spending more to import oil, and that increases the input cost. That increases the total input cost on various manufacturing products. Okay, so that further drive the inflation in economy. Okay, so that is cost push inflation. So I hope you understood this concept. And next, it is with respect to the electronic voting machines. Okay, so recently Association for Democratic Reforms filed a petition in the Supreme Court demanding that they don't have trust in the electronic voting machines, and at the same time the common man don't have any opportunity to or a common man or the person who casts his or her vote don't have any information that whether the vote cast to a person he or she decide. Okay, so in EVMs what happens, you will get a EVM machine. Okay, so you will get a EVM machine, and in this EVM machine there will be names of different candidates with their symbols and a button side by, and you just press one button in this EVM machine and vote would be registered. The vote would be registered for the person you wanted to cast your vote. So however, the problem is that the voter really don't know that this machine really casts the vote to the right person or not. So voter don't know any information about this. So since voter don't know any information whether the vote casted to the right person or desired person or not, the Association for Democratic Reforms have been demanding that we must return to the ballot paper. So in this ballot paper also there is a name of the candidate, his political party and the symbol, and you just mark one such political party or the candidate to which you wanted to give your vote, and then submit this form to the electoral officer. So that is the ballot paper. Since the EVMs, you don't get the opportunity that even if your vote is casted to the right person or not, they are demanding that we must return to the ballot paper. Now we'll understand the context first and also the syllabus for which it is very important. So the Supreme Court on Tuesday disagreed with the idea of return to the paper ballots to restore the common man's confidence in the electoral process, saying the machines give absolutely accurate results unless human bias maligns them. Okay, so in fact the Supreme Court expressed trust on the electronic voting machines that they are absolutely accurate, they provide absolutely accurate results. However, there is also a challenge: unless the human bias maligns them, EVMs are accurately fine or perfectly fine, and they also accurately register the vote of different votes of the people. So our syllabus, it is very important for your general studies paper 2 mains. Now understand this news article. I've already told you that two separate petitions were filed in the Supreme Court. One was filed by Association for Democratic Reforms and second was filed by Arun Kumar Agarwal, highlighting voters' fundamental right to information about his vote. So whether my vote is registered to the right person, or whether I have given my vote to the correct person to which I wanted to give or not. So you will not get any such opportunity through the EVMs except the VVPAT, the voter verifiable paper audit trial. So it shows a slip, so that indicates to which person you have given your vote. So however, you do not have access, you cannot access the voter verifiable paper audit trial, this paper slip. Rather, it is displayed 7 seconds so that you can confirm that your vote is casted to the right person or desired person. Except VVPAT, you will not have any option that you vote is given to the right person. So the petitioners have said that there were no doubts about the electronic voting machines. Okay, so they also agreed that the electronic voting machines are fine and accurate. But the only problem or only issue was that the EVMs did not provide the voters with the confirmation or confidence about their votes. So there will be no confirmation that you have given your vote to the right person or right candidate that whom you desires. So there will be no confirmation or no confidence with the voter about the electronic voting machines, and that is the main problem here. So therefore, you also understand when you look at the electronic voting machines, the voter's main interface is with the button only. And the voters also, they have no way to know that the machine had accurately recorded their votes, whether the EVM machine accurately recorded their votes or not. So however, the voter verifiable paper audit trial machine, so it showed the slip only for the blink of an eye or 7 seconds after the vote was cast. So in fact, a lot of people who don't have a proper knowledge and awareness about this VVPAT machines also. So therefore, it is a problematic, and they are demanding that we must return to the paper ballot system, because paper ballot system could ensure that the voters will have to they get to know about this. Wait. So the voters will be able to know about their vote is casted to the right person, or they will have the confirmation or confidence that their vote is casted to the right person. Okay, so because of that reason, they have been demanding this. So the next important news article is with respect to the code of conduct. So recently, Election Commission of India had issued a schedule for the general elections and assembly polls of several states. So therefore, in this context, when Election Commission under Article 324 of the Indian Constitution issues a schedule for the elections, the code of conduct would also came into force. Code of conduct would also came into force. Now we will understand what is exactly this code of conduct briefly. Okay, so understand this code of conduct. Code of conduct is actually a set of guidelines, and it is being issued by the Election Commission of India for the conduct of political parties, candidates during the elections. So the model code of conduct comes into force immediately with the announcement of election schedule by the commission, and that ensures free and fair elections. Okay, so that ensures free and fair elections in India. Right, so we'll understand briefly what exactly is this code of conduct. So we all knew that under Article 324 of the Indian Constitution, the Election Commission of India conduct elections regularly. So Election Commission of India conduct elections to Lok Sabha or Parliament. We can say Parliament would be the better word, Parliament, and Assembly, state legislative assemblies, and the office of the President, office of the Vice President. Okay, so if any state has a legislative council also, then Election Commission of India also conduct elections to the state legislative councils under Article 324 of the Indian Constitution. So the Election Commission of India ensures the observance of the model code of conduct by all the political parties in power and all the candidates who are contesting the elections. So that is very essential for conducting free and fair elections under Article 324 by the Election Commission of India. So for this particular purpose, Election Commission of India issues Model Code of Conduct or MCC. So this Model Code of Conduct, what it do? So it ensures that the official machinery for electoral purposes is not misused. And at the same time, it ensures that electoral offences, malpractices and corrupt practices are prevented by all means. So the Model Code of Conduct is actually enforced from the date of announcement of the election schedule by the Election Commission, and it is operational till the process of elections is completed. If it is a state or by-election or general elections. So during general elections, that means elections for Lok Sabha, the Code of Conduct applicable throughout the country. And during general election, the Legislative Assembly of the state, the code is applicable in the entire state. However, if any by-elections are held by the Election Commission of India, then the Code of Conduct would be applicable in the area of the concerned constituency only. So this is all about the Code of Conduct, and Election Commission has said that it is satisfied with the Code of Conduct, the Model Code of Conduct, and how it is implemented and how it is followed by the candidates and the political parties. So that's all in this lecture, and thank you so much. So if you like the video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and also like the video. Thank you.